My name is Moses Powell. I've been studying jiu-jitsu for the last 20 years. I'm the master Furendo Visitational. And at this particular time, I'm a senior master in the art of jiu-jitsu Te and jiu-jitsu Ryu.
.radio.net presents to you some of the most deadly jiu-jitsu masters in the world. Trained in the vicious urban inner-city street combat system of Sanucus Ryu Jiu-Jitsu, this art was created by the legendary Dr. Moses Powell, the father of American contemporary jiu-jitsu and the greatest martial artist of the 20th century. This network brings together 4 radio shows 4 nights a week, starting with Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Each one teach one, with the Pia Master himself, Grandmaster Urban Muhammad, and his protege, Professor Terrence Hale. Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Modern Combat Masters, hosted by the inheritor of GM Billy Davis Jiu-Jitsu, guru of his own Filipino system, and Sanucus Master, Grandmaster Daryl Sargent, and his co-host, Sifu Reseda de Jesus. Thursday nights at 9 p.m. is Professor Tom Curry's radio talk show. A Kenpo Master and Professor of Sanucus Ryu, 20 years law enforcement, senior tactical training instructor for intelligence retired, and author of the official Sanucus Ryu Jiu-Jitsu testing and training curriculum. And Friday nights at 8 p.m. is Making the Connection, hosted by the president of DocRadio.net, Grandmaster in the art of Sanucus Ryu and Soke of Kuroshi Kaikan martial arts system, and president of the Family of Sanucus organization, Soke Haisan Khalik, and his co-host, Shihan Farouk Gibbs. All of these shows can be linked to online by typing in docradio.net or listening live at the scheduled time by dialing 646-716-6825. DocRadio.net is also proud to present DocMagazine.net, the world's largest martial art magazine dedicated to Dr. Moses Powell, Sanucus Ryu Eye-to-Eye Jiu-Jitsu, Urban Tactical Street Self-Defense, and Streetology. Please join our Facebook group by typing in docradio.net and follow us on Twitter by typing docradio.net. Thank you for your support, and in the words of Doc, eye to eye, heart to heart, to the wall and back, us.
This is Fukan Shabazz from the Ultimate Show. Greetings. Welcome to this our show tonight with our guest, Professor Tanwir Sahib, and I'm going to bring in my co-host, Shihan Salahuddin. Shihan.
Us.
Good. How you doing tonight, brother?
Good. Is our guest with us today, right now?
He hasn't called in yet. So we'll give him a little bit.
Good.
Yeah.
Not a problem. So, how you doing?
But I'm doing good, man. And to our listeners, we got a 2012 season coming in, and we got a whole new lineup coming. We got some big interviews coming up. As they know tonight, we have the Professor Tanwir. We have Grandmaster Charles Allen. We have Shihan Kevin Aaron, and we also have some really big guests coming up after that I think the audience will be really interested in. And Shihan, why don't you tell them about what's going on with the online program and everything?
Well, absolutely. Well, we're in the initial stages of implementing the online program, which is I'm having to relearn some stuff and learn some new stuff at the same time. But we're looking towards, hopefully, an, I would say, spring launch of the first Sanucus Ryu online university. So hopefully, God willing, this will be a good, successful program, and at the main state, it will be a university where you're going to be able to log in and take different courses from different Sanucus Ryu instructors, including myself, and so on and so on. So, like a true university, you'll be able to pretty much pick an instructor's specialty. Let's say it'd be forms. You'll be able to take that instructor's class. And, if that's what you need to focus on, the forms in Sanucus Ryu, you'll be able to focus on that, So we're going to have a truly great university that we're working on, and we're just working out some of the kinks and some of the small little items that we're running into. And as soon as we get through those and we have a program that's let's say flawless, then we're going to go ahead and launch it. So look forward to that coming this spring. So within the next hopefully 2 months, let's say around late March, early April, we should be launching.
Yes. While we're waiting for the professor, Shion, why don't you tell us a little bit about who is our guest that's coming on today? Well, I'm going to try to find his number, give him a call from the show.
Absolutely. All right, well, we have a guest today, Tanwir Sahib. I believe he's born Brooklyn bred, and he's quite controversial, and that he has a particularly unique position in Sanuca's room. All right, and the name Tanwir Sahib brings back memories, some good, some bad. But I've spoken to Tanwir a few times at length, and he seems like a fairly sincere brother, outside of the Sanuca's world, and within the martial arts world, I should say, he is a serious, hard martial artist. His classes are phenomenal here in Atlanta, Georgia, and his students are well behaved as well as disciplined. And the brother's pretty hardcore with his training. He's a former, and I'm gonna put quotation marks around the former. He's a former sensei, Shihan, and professor in Sanuca's Ryu Jiu-Jitsu, and he is one of, I believe, 3 founders of the system called Fannul, which is an Islamic system geared towards self-defense, which is a mixture of whatever he and his 3 founders, or the 3 founders study. So I believe it's a mixture of maybe 15 martial arts, if I'm not mistaken.
I think the professor is joining us. So before I bring him in, I want to greet the Professor Tanwir Sahib. He's also the Soke of Fannul martial arts system, Jiu-Jitsu, and he has 43 years in training as a martial artist and 30 years as teaching the martial art. So with no further ado, let me bring in the professor. Assalamu alaikum, Professor. How you feeling? Professor? Hello?
Tanwir?
Professor Tanwir? Let me actually try to call him from the show.
Yeah,
to make sure we're not having any technical difficulties.
Not a problem.
Okay, hold on.
What happens when you go live? Go ahead.
Hold on one second.
All right. As I was saying before, Professor Tanwir is I don't want to say controversial, but he's probably as controversial as you can get within Sanuca's at the moment, and he is definitely going to be an interesting interview. First half of this interview, we're going to go ahead and just talk about some of the issues, and we'll see if we can reach you, brother.
Hello.
Professor?
Yes.
Yes, how you doing, sir?
Well, I was just dialing the number.
Oh, yeah. This is Professor. I just dialed you from the show. You're actually on the air right now. Shihan, are you there?
Oh, salam alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Professor, before I actually start, let me just give you the special greeting that I give all the guests. We have here tonight Professor Tanwir. He has 43 years in training of the martial art. He has 30 years as teaching the martial arts, and he actually has 15 black belts that was directly under him. He's also a dedicated martial artist. I'm also understanding he's also a competitive fighter. And with no further ado, I want to reintroduce Professor Tanwir. Hi, Professor.
Hot, brother. How are you?
I'm pretty good. How you feeling tonight?
I'm feeling well. Actually. I'm feeling pretty good.
Good.
Thanks for having me on the show.
No problem.
Absolutely.
Thanks for giving us the interview. The honor is ours, most definitely. All right, I'm going to just kind of jump into it. We have my first question to you is, just first of all, kind of tell the audience, who you are, what's your name, where you're from, how did you come into Sanucus Rule? Let's start from there.
My name is Tanwir Sahib, Tanwir Mohammed Sahib, actually. I'm from Brooklyn, from Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. Live in Williamsburg as well. Some of the projects. I came into Sanucus through the EP system. My first system of martial arts that I ever trained in was EP system under Master Ed Pugh, and some of his black belts like Michael DeWitt, trained with Bouncy and Bo Peep, a few of those guys. But then that's why I met Dr. Moses Powell the first time, because actually, from what I understand, Master Ed Pugh Sensei was his first black belt. I used to come over to the Tompkins Projects quite often and teach classes and different things like that. But I was young then. I was like 13 years old. But that was my first introduction to finding out anything about Sanucus.
Let me ask you, when I talked to you, you told me that Sanucus made it cool to be black in the martial arts. When I spoke with you, you said Sanucus made it cool to be black in the martial arts. What did you mean by that?
I think that one Master Moses Powell made to the martial art is that before Sanucus, most of the people that you saw in the martial arts, they had like a Japanese or a Chinese, Korean flavor in the dojo to the art itself. And Sanucus is more conducive to the attributes of a black man. And we didn't no longer have to, we had actually a black man to look up to as a grandmaster in the martial arts. So that's what that means to me.
Now I do know in the Brooklyn area you did have other brothers like Grandmaster Charles Elmore, right? And then you also had Grandmaster Ronald Duncan. Did those guys come in the same?
I never studied under Grandmaster Charles Elmore. As far as what I've heard, I'm way too young to know because this was before my time. But I heard that Dr. Moses Powell actually trained with him. But I wasn't there to be able to verify that myself. I don't know.
Okay, let me ask you. We also spoke, and you talked about how he gave people the stage to do their own thing. You were saying how, one of the things that made him great was the fact that, here it is, this international star, international phenomenon in the martial arts. And when he would do a video, when he would do a seminar, he would use his students, give them the spotlight, whereas he could have easily just used them as a uki and you wouldn't even know their name. But what do you, can you elaborate on that?
Sure. If you go on YouTube and you look up Sanucus and you see some of the old videos that people have posted and allowed us the opportunity to see them, and you see him doing demonstrations over the years from when he was a younger man all the way up until his last days, you see that he'll usually come out and do 2 or 3 techniques, but most of the floor he gave to his students. I was very blessed in that area too. If you look in Sanucus number 2 and number 4, you'll see me actually working and doing technique. I wouldn't have had that opportunity other than that. I've studied with many other instructors, and none of them ever. They used me for uki, but I never got an opportunity to do that type of thing. And I seen him. He allowed so many of his students to come out and actually work on stage with him. And show their skills. So that, to me, that was a way of you know, of him actually putting people, using his, I guess they stardom or his strength in the martial arts to make other people known. And I think that was a very kind thing of him.
Let me ask you, what year did you start studying in Sanukis, and where did you study Sanukis at?
I started studying martial arts in 1971, with Ed Pugh, Michael DeWitt, Bouncy. It was a whole crew of us down there, and that's when Doc used to come through, and I used to study with him in those classes, but I was very young. So it was like during 1971, 72, around that area.
Mm-hmm. And what was the training like back then?
The training in the martial arts back then was a lot different than what I see it is today. First of all, it was very structured. The dojos, the dojo etiquette was a lot different than what you see today. I actually see people on the floor drinking water and stuff like that, and that was something that was unheard of back then. The calisthenics were extremely intense. You had to be able to fight. Your techniques had to be sharp. It was really intense. You had cats back there with low ranks that I put it to you like this. I remember walking into the dojo my first time and being afraid to get on the floor. Not from the black belts, but from the yellow belts and the green belts. So, you know, it was a different kind of energy in dojo. Today it's been commercialized a lot, and you don't see the same thing. A lot of guys that I know that are exceptional martial artists. Like one of them is Bouncy, who inherited the EP system, and he don't even teach anymore, and he just for various reasons, health reasons, as well as the fact that he was telling me himself he don't like the quality of the martial artists that's coming out now for the most part. Mm-hmm. But to answer your question, the training was a lot more structured and intense than it is now. It appears to me anyway.
Now, Doc, when he used to teach at when you studied when he said he would teach in Tompkins Projects, right, in the community center.
Yeah, he would come to Tompkins Projects. He also taught down on Atlantic Avenue.
Right. But
he taught a million places. He taught up in Harlem. Everywhere.
Yeah, I know, but I'm talking about where you met him. I'm talking about through your experience. You trained with him in Tompkins.
Yes, that's where I met him at. Yes.
Yeah, and what was what was his training like? Like, what was when Doc would get on the floor? Like, what was his energy like back in the early 70s?
His energy was I would like to say it like this. He was the type of person that he could get me to do things that I didn't believe that I could do. But I would do them because he believed that I could.
Mm-hmm. I see. You know, I was talking to we had an interview with Grandmaster Urban Muhammad a few weeks ago, and he was talking about how back in those days, Grandmaster Urban,
mm-hmm. Right.
And he was saying back in those days that it was a renaissance, that it was like a black renaissance. I mean, not really a black one, but it was a renaissance for the martial arts in general, but specifically for the black martial arts, it was also a renaissance. Can you talk about what that renaissance was like? What was that renaissance like back in the 70s?
I guess it was different for different people. As I mentioned to you earlier, the martial arts has changed a lot now in terms of the reason why people are training. Back then, for myself specifically, it was the large portion of the reason why I was training because it was during the civil rights movement. I was one of the kids that was part of the whole busing. You familiar with busing? Busing was when they were supposed to take some of the kids, the black kids from the ghetto, and send them out to places like Sheepshead Bay to go to school, and they were supposed to send some of the white kids from Sheepshead Bay to Bed-Stuy to go to school, which that didn't happen, but they sent a handful of us out there to go to school. So it was to go to Bay Ridge, Sheepshead Bay, those at Marine Park area during those days in the 60s and the 70s. It was very uncomfortable for a person of color. A lot of times you got chased and got beat up and all that kind of stuff. So the martial arts was very real for us. Those was days when it was a lot of confrontations with police. The Black Panther Party was very active. So for black people as a whole, in those days, the martial arts kind of liberated us and gave us a method of fighting back. You know, whereas we didn't really have that prior to that. At least not from my generation. Like I said, I grew up born in the 50s, and these things that I'm talking about was like during the 60s and into the 70s. So the Renaissance for me, if that's what you're talking about, that's what it.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate that. Mm-hmm. You know, one of the things we talked about, you told me that you tested. You said for all your ranks, you got tested for each one of them, going up to 7th degree. Mm-hmm. What does that mean to you? Like, what does that state? Like, what does that mean when you say tested? Who tested you in your 7th degree rank?
Dr. Moses Powell.
No, actually, so let me actually rephrase this. Let me back this up. When you got your black belt,
I can tell you when, where, the time.
Yeah, definitely. I want to start with your black belt. What was it like when you first got your black belt? When was it? What year was it? Who tested you for your black belt?
I got my black belt when I was 18 years old.
Wow.
That was 1973. I got my black belt. My first black belt was in EP system. The one that tested me was named Michael DeWitt under Ed Pugh. My second black belt was actually in Taekwondo. And Chamber Kwan Taekwondo, a student of Ozzie Wright named Vernon Bolton, tested me. I trained with Ozzie Wright in his dojo on Market Street in Philadelphia in the 5 years that I lived there, as well as training with Sensei Terry Hayford in Philadelphia, who was one of the direct students under Grandmaster Ronald Duncan. This is how I met Grandmaster Ronald Duncan and got the opportunity to train with him as well. I trained with, during the 70s, like, I want to say 74, 75, with a brother named Buddha when I first got introduced to a system called Chinese Kung Fu. It was during those days that it wasn't popular for a person to have on more than one patch. You know, because like if you studied in Goju and you wasn't really friendly with people who studied in Shotokan or any other system, it was kind of like rivalry. So it was a little different. At least that's the way it was in my neighborhood. I can't say how it was all over the world, but that's the way it was in my neighborhood. I'll put it to you like this: when I say that every rank that I got from Grandmaster Moses Powell, I actually tested for, and he never charged me for my testing or promotion. I tested for my, actually I was the 4th testing for 5th at 653 Vanderbilt Avenue, and he skipped me from, I was never a 5th, he skipped me to 6th.
What made him skip you?
I never questioned my teacher on anything like that. You know, did I feel worthy of it? Absolutely not. I have times right now when I still question myself, and I try to keep myself in the kind of shape. This is my personal belief, brother. I try to keep myself in the shape, and I'm 57 years old that I can still pass a Shodan test. I feel like anybody who puts on a black belt on any given day should be able to pass at least a minimum a Shodan test. And I try to keep myself in that kind of condition as well as the other ranks going up. So why he thought that I was ready for that, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. When we moved down the street, a few doors down at 649 Vanderbilt Avenue, he promoted me to 7th Dan. We tested there. He promoted me to 7th Dan. And he gave me the additional title of professor. Every person in Sanucus with 7th Dan is not professor. Did I feel like I deserved that? I never questioned my teacher on it. I just do the best that I can. He told me don't estimate, don't overestimate, don't underestimate. If I say that you're worthy of this, then just take it and move on. And that's it.
Now, Professor, this is what I need understanding on, because, and
Sure.
maybe you can help me on this. All right, so I'm just going to get a pen and paper right now and just break some stuff down. So first degree is a showdown, right? When someone
Yes.
says they got a black, okay, so showdown is first degree. Now,
Nidon is second, Sandan is third, Yodon is fourth, Godon is fifth.
all right, let me stop you right there. Now, most martial arts, at least from what I know, in most martial arts, you're a master at fourth degree.
Yeah.
And anything after fourth degree is not really significant. Anything after fourth degree is just honorary. It's just, just how many years you've been in the system.
That depends on the system. I would say that depends on the system. You find people like that wouldn't be relevant in Shotokan, because Gushin Funakochi, who was the founder of Shotokan, who died in 1957, when he died, he was a fifth degree black belt. But today you have people walking around with 8th, 9th, and 10th degree black belts in Shotokan, so they have more rank than the founder of the system, which I find a little ironic. But nevertheless, so any rank over 5th degree in Shotokan, I would say, would be honorary, as I've heard said by people who know more about the martial arts than myself, and it's based on the person's contribution to the martial arts. So now, would that 5th degree be equivalent to a 10th degree in other systems? I guess so. So 4th degree.
Go
ahead.
But in Sanukas, at what rate does it start becoming honorary? Like at what rate in Sanukas is like, okay, you got it, you got the system, you you got it, and anything after that is just basically honorary. Like, would you say a 4th degree is that, or a 5th degree is that?
I can't answer that question, brother. I heard Doc say that Sanukas was bigger than him, and he was the founder of it. So I don't have the knowledge or the authority to say at what point that the rank becomes honorary. I really can't say that. Like I said, I heard him say himself from his own mouth that Sanukas was bigger than him. And because I was asking him once, who did he have in line to lead the system to? And he said, Tanwir Sanukas is bigger than me, and I'm the founder of it. So I don't think anybody else can fill those shoes, if I can't even fill them myself.
Now, you said something interesting. You said that you have a 7th degree, and he named you professor, but then there's some people that have the 7th degree, and he didn't name them professor. Can you explain that?
Well, there were some people that he gave 7th degree rank to, and he did not. He still considered them to be Shihan. He didn't give them that additional title of professor. And there were other people that he gave the title of professor to. A number of people, like I remember one of my seniors, Professor Bill McLeod, Professor Saifullah Al-Amriki. He gave him Professor, brother who just passed away, Professor Abu Beda. There was a Professor Robertson. There was many people that got the rank of professor, but there were people who had the rank of 7th degree who was not professor at one point. But I do remember getting professor titles later on. So I mean, that's just the way that he did his system. I don't know. I don't remember him ever having any stripes on belts. Like you have people with like a yellow belt, and then you get a yellow belt with a stripe. I don't remember him ever doing that. Right? You was either a yellow belt or you wasn't. You was a green belt or you wasn't. You wasn't halfway in between, almost, or kind of, sort of. I don't remember any of that. As a matter of fact, when I first started training in the martial arts, they didn't have like blue belts and orange belts and all of these stuff. Those belts didn't exist. That I remember, not in the systems that I studied. You had white, yellow, green, purple, brown, and black, and that was it. The 3 browns, and that was it. And then, through the black belt rankings. You didn't have people with tons of rank like you see now. If you saw a person with a 3rd or a 5th degree black belt, that was something that was phenomenal. You didn't see it like as much as you do now. You see people now 15 years old with 3rd dans. So I mean, it's just a different thing for me. A different.
Now you said he never charged. You said he never charged you for your rank. Now, what's the significance of having to pay for a rank, and what would be the difference between having to pay for a rank and what makes it significant, the fact that you didn't have to pay for a rank? Like what does that mean?
Well, I don't. As an instructor, myself, I do, and knowing a lot of other instructors myself, I do understand the business aspect of charging for a rank. You have to understand and realize that when a person comes to a martial arts school and the instructor asks them to make a commitment, because, I mean, let's look at it like this. On the average, it's going to take 4 or 5 years to get a black belt. From white belt to black belt, it's going to take 4 or 5 years. That, I would say, that's equivalent to going to a university and getting a bachelor's degree. You know,
right.
So in order to get that bachelor's degree, you can't just be hopping in and out of the school and expecting to get it at that particular time in that time frame. And that means that the professors of that school are also going to be making a commitment to teach you so that you can get this degree. The same thing in the martial arts. When the person comes to a martial arts school and sits down with an instructor and tells them they would like to study under him, and then the instructor says, like some of the questions that I asked the person, do you really have the time? Do you have any time restraints? Can you make the time commitment to come and train with me? Are you financially capable of handling this? Because this is an ongoing thing. This is something that not something you're going to do in 3 months and then, with the presto, it's going to be over. No, it's going to be a long-term relationship. Because at the end of the day, I'm also making a commitment to teach you for the next 4 or 5 years and beyond. So, I don't know if that's answering your question or not.
Yeah, definitely. And so the thing is that I'm just going to kind of fill in the gaps. So I'm going to say that maybe there were possibly people who tested, and if they didn't have the money, they didn't get the rank. So before I continue on, would you say that could be a fair assessment? Like, in other words, let's say if you had to pay X amount of dollars to get tested, then you could test and you get. But let's say if you didn't have the money, you wouldn't. That's like a prerequisite in order to move up, right?
Mm.
See, the point I'm trying to get at is that I've always heard people, paid. You know what I mean? Like, that's not something foreign to me. But it is foreign to hear that you got a 7th degree. He didn't charge you. Like, something just sounds special about that. So I'm just trying to understand, like, why wouldn't he have charged you for your rank? Like, what was so special about your relationship where he wouldn't have charged you? You understand what I'm saying, Professor?
I have no idea. Maybe it was based on the fact that, during that time he had love for me as his Muslim brother. I was doing a lot of things to help him, myself and Professor Robertson, to document the system. I mean, it's his system, but a lot of stuff wasn't on paper at that time. And up until, I would say, a couple of years ago, Professor Robertson, if you ever interviewed him, he probably can tell you better exactly when this new curriculum came into play. But before that one, the curriculum that I remember was one that we put together on Vanderbilt Avenue. At one time, that was the headquarters for Sahib, but a very short period of time. But for that short period of time, it was the headquarters for Sahib. A lot of stuff was not documented in terms of the curriculum for each rank, going up through the ranks. And that's something that I sat down and I wrote it down, and he looked at it and approved it at the time. And there are some people who still have that access to that curriculum. But then it got changed over time, I guess, depending on where he was at and who was as closer to him at the time. But it's why he would not charge me for my rank, for my testing. I don't know. Maybe, like I said, maybe it was the love that he had for me at that time. Like I have students now that have 4th or 5th degree black belts from me that I didn't charge them either. Sometimes, like if a person is stuck with me all of these years, they've put all of this hard work and dedication into it, and you just sometimes I just would test them and just give it to them. Usually, like when at black belt testing, when I have black belt testing, I always have gifts from my black belt. I'll give them something. If it's nothing but a sword stand, something, I'll give them something. Just saying thank you. So I really can't answer that question as to why he would do that. Honestly,
Professor, we were talking. You were telling me about a time that when you was in a dojo. I think this was at the Vanderbilt dojo, and he said that he left you in charge to teach the class, and the principal learning how to stand alone. Can you tell the audience about that experience?
Yeah, we was at 653 Vanderbilt. Dr. Powell had that school with one of my classmates. His name was Baki, and it was a Sunday. We were in their black belt class. He always normally had black belt class on Sunday. I think at the time I was like a fourth dan. He had to go out and leave. There was several black belts in the class that day, maybe 15 different people in the class that day. And he had to go out. Someone came to pick him up, and he called me up to the front. He said, "Tanwir, I want you to teach the rest of the class." Like I said, it scared me half to death because I think at the time, like only a fourth dan. And it was cats in there, man, that were way more experienced than I was, way more experienced. And when he got to the door, I walked him over to the door and I asked him, why did he pick me out of all of these guys that was in there? He said, "I've had to stand alone, and I can see that there's going to be a time when you're going to have to stand alone in this art, and this is a good time for you to start practicing it. And never let anybody take your floor. When you have a school, when you're in charge, if I leave you in charge, then you run the class." And I taught the rest of the class. And he would always tell me, like, when you have a dojo, I don't care who come in your dojo, it's your dojo. Even if I come in there, you run the class. And I never forgot that.
Professor, what is the greatest martial art? What is the greatest principle that Dr. Moses Powell taught you? What is the greatest principle you learned from Dr. Moses Powell?
I would say one of the greatest principles that I learned from Dr. Moses Powell is to do what you can, not what you can't. To keep it as simple as possible. To allow people to grow at their own pace. I used to drive him down to McGuire Air Force Base to teach class down there. It was a class of, I'd say maybe about 20, 30 different people that.
And where's this Air Force Base at? What
McGuire Air Force Base is in New Jersey. And we used to drive down there, me and him, his wife, Gina, and at the time my wife, Nasima, who went as far as second-degree black belt. And we would go in, when we got in there, he would say to me, "Tanwir, take it easy on these guys. They don't train like we do." And he would sit there and tell me what he wanted me to do, and I would do it. But I would. One of the things that he was extremely good at is he had the ability, like I said, to make people believe that they could do things that they had no idea that they could do. I've seen so many people come to him that were already black belts in other systems, and in a very short period of time, he could take their skill level and increase it 100% in a very short period of time. He was such an excellent teacher, and that was something that was always just amazing to me, man.
I talked to you. You said something. You said that you said 2 out of every 100 students you teach is going to actually stick around to get a black belt. Talk about that.
The statistics dictate that only 2 in every 100 people that come into a dojo at any given time make it the black belt.
How do you know? Like when you have a student coming back, do you know like which one is going to be part of the 2? Like the 15 black belts you got, did you say, yeah, I knew these guys was going to make it? You know what I mean?
Maybe one or two of them, but sometimes the one that you think is going to make it the black belt drop out way before black belt, and the ones that you think are not going to make it, they go all the way. So when you see that guy who makes it all the way to black belt, and he basically, surprised you because you wasn't expecting this guy to make it to black belt, what did that teach you as a teacher? When you see your student make it to that showdown level,
you say, wow, this guy actually did it. You know what I mean? Like what does that tell you? What do you learn from that?
The first time that I promoted some people to black belt, it was my first black belt is Ron Brabham. He has a school on Fulton Street in Brooklyn, and he tested alone. But the next group was Osando, Kamal Siddiqui, John Marshall, Nasima, and Richard. And I got to tell you, when the testing was over, when those 5 years were over, and they tested for black belt, I needed personally to take a couple of months to myself. It is draining. Let me tell you, it takes a lot out of an instructor, because you got to understand and realize that you're dealing with. You got 10 people in front of you in a school that stick and stay for that long period of time. You got all of these different personalities, and each one of these personalities has a different set of issues and a different set of problems. Everybody's expecting you to put you on a pedestal like you have this perfect life, and that's just really not realistic. I always tell students, please don't put me on a pedestal. I'm just a man, So, it's not an easy thing. It feels good. I remember everybody cried. It feels good, man. It feels good to anytime I can only, for me, and I can only imagine this works for anybody, any other human being, that you have taken a part in helping another human being succeed at something and to grow. Got to make you feel good. I still think about some of the guys who were kids at the time that were in the dojo training, 9, 10 years old, and today one of them in particular is an attorney, Shion Erickson, who his name is Saquon Howard, and I get calls from people that find me on Facebook that were kids at the time. I don't remember, to be honest with you, everybody that I've trained that was kids. I have a program down here. We're in a junior high school or middle school, they call it down here in Georgia. But I got 80 kids. There's no way in the world I'm gonna remember all of these kids. But 20 years from now, they'll say, well, I trained with him and blah blah blah, and I get calls from people that find me on Facebook that were 9 and 10 and 12 years old now, that at the time that are now pilots and in medical school and got families, and they call me and say thank you for the contribution that you made to my life. Of course, that's got to feel good. Yeah.
We're talking to Professor Tanwir Sahib of Sanukashru Master, also the Soke of Fannul Harb Jiu-Jitsu. We'll be taking calls after the heart segment. I see the line is lighting out. We have a lot of callers coming in. I'm going to just please sit tight, and I'm going to bring you in a minute. Professor, let's talk about Fannul Harb for a minute. How did that come about? I know that Yusuf Day is one of the co-founders, and also Soke Yusuf Day, Soke Abdul Ali, and yourself. How did this system come about, and what did all three of you gentlemen bring to this system?
Yusuf Day studied in Korean Taekyon under Mashu Park. Abdul Ali black belt in Taekwondo, and he also loved Chinese Kung Fu. And he had black belt ranking in Chinese Kung Fu. And they both had training in a variety of different other things. We used to go around from school to school and work out, and wherever we saw a dojo, we would just go in and ask if we could pay the mat fee and work out for the class, in addition to going to our home schools. And as we started to grow and we started noticing not the differences, but the similarities between all of the different arts, and we started documenting them and realizing that, okay, between the three of us, we had, more than one black belt from different systems. And we noticed that there were so many things that were the same. Like a front kick is a front kick is a front kick. It may be chambered a little bit differently from one system to another one, but it still begins and ends up at the same place. So what we did was we took the basic requirements, say, for yellow belt from 3 or 4 different systems that we had studied, and everything that was similar or the same, we wrote it down once, and everything that was different, we added it to the list. And over a period of time, see, a system isn't something that you put together like overnight. You just sit down and say, okay, while I bang, you do some writing and you got a system. It takes years to do that. Fannul Harb is still developing it. And that's one of the things that I noticed about Sanukis. It developed and evolved all the way until Dr. Powell died, and it's still evolving through his students. And Fannul Harb is relatively a young art. We only started it in 1990, so what is it, like 22 years old? So it's not really, something like that, 22 years old. So it's not old.
What did Doc give his blessings on Fannul Harb? Like, what did he think about your system?
Actually, he did. He, as a matter of fact, it was born in AICP, which means the Association of Islamic Charitable Projects. So we had the blessings of Doc. We had the blessings of different scholars that added some additions to the things that we needed to do before we gave a person a black belt on a spiritual level. But there are some people, Professor Robertson is one of them, that on one of his certificates, I think it's his 4th degree certificate, is from AICP for Fannul Harb, and Doc's signature is on it, as well as Professor Adam Battle. I think Professor Grandmaster Noel's signature may be on it as well. I don't remember. He probably could tell you a little bit better. And I just spoke with him today, too, about that. Mm-hmm. But Fannul Harb means the art of combat. So it doesn't consist of anything new. It really doesn't. It just means that what we did, when we looked at the martial arts as a whole, we kind of said, well, you know what? It appears that it's been fragmented. Like somebody liked to kick, and they took that and made a kicking art. And somebody liked to do throws, and so they did a throwing art. And someone like to do this, or like this. So you have all of these different arts, and what we wanted to do is bring all of it back together into one system. And can that happen in one lifetime? I doubt it very seriously. There's too many arts out here. It's just too much information. In 43 years in the martial arts, I'm still learning. Every time I walk in the dojo, every time I talk to another martial artist, I'm learning something. So, but it literally means the art of combat. And yes, it did have his blessings. And that was it.
One thing that's interesting talking to you, because you are a Soke, and the difference between like a Soke like yourself, and let's say for instance like me, like I really don't have any interest in being a Soke. I just want to get a lot of rank in Sanukis and just be done with that, pass it on and be done with that. So if I take myself as an example, Sanukis more or less could be, let's say, corporate America, right? And as I go up, I go from entry level, then I get manager position, and then, and if I'm lucky, maybe one day I could become a professor. If I become a professor, I don't even need nothing more than that. I'm good. If I get anything, if I get a sheet, I'm good. But then you take yourself a Soke. To me, a Soke, but I'm moving up in a corporate structure, right? So Sanukis is a corporation. But then a Soke to me is somebody who, you came out of that structure, but then you go off and you create your own corporation. So now you got to come with the headaches and all that, where, instead of staying with the security of something that was already established. As a Soke, what is some of the challenges and what are some of the stresses that comes along when a person says, okay, I want to go out and create my own system? Like what are some of the hurdles a person may run into?
Fannul Harb came into existence out of necessity, not so much out of a desire to do anything new or to be showcased as someone who is Soke. That's like some kind of new title for me that I'm just really getting comfortable with or, understanding. And starting and doing a system like this, like I said, it was out of necessity. Fannul Harb, again, means the art of combat. And we wanted to do something that could be done and be trained in by the Muslims. There's a lot of things that happen in traditional martial arts that as Muslims we're not permitted to do, like the bowing and putting our heads on the floor. When we train in the class with women, Allah does not permit us to touch women. So we're not permitted to look at, their body parts and things like that, that the women that we're not married to, or our sister, or our mother, our daughter, something like that. So we needed to be, as Muslims, in an environment where we could train and still follow the guidelines and the prescription that Allah has given for us to be successful in this life and in the hereafter. So our approach to the training in the martial arts was different, and we needed an environment where we could have a level of safety. Not only wasn't concerned about the safety in the training. I mean, there's going to be things that happen in training. But I'm talking about the safety in our religion. So that was one of the things that was a necessity. Also, one of the things that we're forbidden to do in Islam is to strike a person in the face. And so, or to point a weapon, a live weapon at another. One person is not permitted to point like a sword at another person. So we had all of these type of things that came into play for us as Muslims. The three of us are Muslims, and everywhere we went, we found ourselves being asked to bow, which is one of the positions of our salat, and we only do that for Allah. And so we got chastised a lot. There were instructors of mine that prior to me becoming Muslim had a certain kind of relationship with me, and then after I became Muslim and I refused to take part in those rituals where you kind of put one ritual in, for instance, where you, in the beginning of class and at the end of class, you get down in Cesar, which is kind of like you're on your knees and you're sitting back, and then you put your hands down on the floor and you put your face down on the floor to the instructor. Well, that's one of the positions of prayer. It's and it's known as the most submissive position or posture that a human being can be in. And so that's only for our Creator. And when I wouldn't do this anymore, it caused some friction. I know of a brother right now who has been ousted from the system that he's been a part of for a very long time, and his rank stripped and all of that because of his religious beliefs. And so you have these kind of things. And so we needed a way for Muslims to train and not be subjected to the Buddhist culture or to any other culture from people outside of ourselves. So in the beginning, when Fannul was first formulated, we did it for that reason, so that we could train together as Muslims and develop and grow and use it for the purpose of strengthening ourselves, not just for the physical part of it, but the discipline in martial arts. The hardest part about the discipline in martial arts is not the discipline that my instructor placed on me, but the discipline that I had to place on myself. One of as I spoke to you about earlier today, I think one of the most significant differences in a white belt and a black belt is that a white belt has to be motivated. A black belt can self-motivate. And this is something that takes time through diligence and practice. And we use this art as Muslims, we use this art not to be anyone who try to go out and hurt people, but to develop ourselves, to make it easier to discipline ourselves, so in those times when we don't feel like getting up with the sun to make salat, to make our prayer, our morning prayer, or we don't feel like fasting in Ramadan for 30 days, or we don't feel like being charitable, but we push ourselves to do it because we've had some vehicle to help us develop the discipline. And so that's part of what it was for us. These are the things that we needed a safe environment to do this without being chastised and looked down upon and frowned upon. I've been asked to not come back to dojos because I wouldn't train with the women. So, and it's no disrespect for the women. It's actually a respect for a woman. How can I grab a woman and throw her in, let's say, uki ghosh? Now, uki ghosh is, for those who don't know, who may not be martial artists, is a hip throw. I'm putting my arm, I'm grabbing her by one arm. Say I'm grabbing her by a right arm with my left hand. I'm taking my right hand, I'm putting it around her waist. I'm dropping my knees down. I'm lifting her up on my back with my legs, lifting with my legs, and I'm turning, looking over my left shoulder and throwing her down on the floor. Now, when I have this woman up on, first of all, I got my hand around her waist. I'm lifting her up. That means her whole front is making physical contact with my back and my side. And then she's sliding over my body. I think that's extremely disrespectful. If this woman is married, she's somebody's mother, she's somebody's daughter, I shouldn't be touching her like this, and the law forbids it. So this was one of the things that we needed to have an environment so that our sisters could train and we could train as well, and it could be in the right order of things that are prescribed for us in Islam. And so that was one of the reasons. In the beginning, we only trained Muslims. We didn't train anybody else with Muslims. That was it. And we traveled all over doing that. And then we started using it as a form of dawah. As a form
and were you the first to do it? Like, were you brothers the first to create an Islamic based approach, more or less taking a
absolutely
lack of a better
not.
word?
Let me tell you something. I've looked at, sometimes I'm sitting around now and I'm looking at the old Chinese kung fu movies, and I'm looking at these cats and I'm saying, these dudes look a lot like Muslims. And you see they had on these long, flowing robes and hats that look like kufis and long beards, and I heard one of them actually say, Inshallah. And I was like, wow, these was actually, a lot of the kung fu movies with Chinese Muslims. I know some brothers in Philadelphia that have arts that predominantly for Muslims. So no, we wasn't the first. By no stretch of the imagination was we the first. We weren't the first to do anything. The only difference for New Harb and any other jiu-jitsu system is that our spiritual base is Islam, and the flavor that we add to it, our own personal blueprint that we put in. Because, Kotegash is Kotegash is Kotegash. A hip throw is a hip throw is a hip throw. A front kick is a front kick is a front kick. A front roll is a front roll is a front roll. So it's nothing unique about it in the sense that it's different.
So in your dojo, no man interacts with the women.
The women are there, but I'll have, like, most of the women that are there, they're there, and their husbands are there as well. So the men that they do interact with in terms of having contact with is their husbands.
And what if it's a woman that doesn't have a husband? You don't accept them in the dojo?
Of course I accept them in the dojo, but then she can work with another woman.
Now how does she prepare for the reality of a man? Because a man aggression and strength is much different than a woman.
But the technique isn't any different.
We're talking to Professor Tanwir Sahib of Fannul Soke Fannul, Professor of Sanukas Rule Jiu-Jitsu, Sanukas Rule Master. Professor, I'm about to go into the heart-to-heart segment, but before I do that, I want to ask my Shihan. Shihan, tell me, do you have any questions for the professor before I move into the heart-to-heart segment?
No, I've just been very in-depth, so we can go ahead and move forward.
Oh, okay, let me do a little... Yeah,
was that a heartbeat?
That's a heartbeat.
Okay.
Yeah. So, hey, Professor, man, I want to thank you again, for taking time to talk to me and my teacher, man. This is definitely a very informative interview, and I didn't know that Fannul Harb actually had the necessity to create an Islamic culture, which I could definitely respect. Both of my daughters go to Muhammad schools, and even in all Muslim schools, they were not in this show, and by no way is promoting Islam, although I'm Muslim, but Qur'an Muhammad schools was created out of a need to create Islamic education, and so as a Muslim, I definitely can appreciate Fannul Harb in that respect. All right, moving forward, in terms of this heart-to-heart segment, I got two questions, for you.
Okay.
The first question, before I get into it, is, your history of Doc seemed to be very, very special history. But at what point did that history, did that relationship kind of like there was a strain? Like, what was the forces that put a strain on that history? So that's the first question. And then after you answer that question, which is going to lead me into the one of the two questions, which is one of the things that circulated. Well, I'm not going to get into that first. This first time, what were some of the things that put a strain on you guys' relationship?
what put a strain on our relationship?
And actually, Tanwir, let's go back, because we did talk, and I want you to use as much discretion as possible here. But one of the things that that's been circulating, and that of course I've heard. Of course, we had a lot of people once they saw that Tanwir Sahib was being interviewed, piqued a lot of interest. What I think our audience wants to hear is that day, with as much discretion as you can use, because we're not into bashing and we're not into character assassination, but with as much discretion as you can use, tell us from your point of view, because what I've heard from the maybe 8, 9, 10 times that I've been to New York City, or even Miami or Atlanta, is the day in Vanderbilt at the dojo. So I'm gonna let you talk about it as much.
That what?
That the Vanderbilt dojo,
right?
The situation that happened with the owners there, and since the owners are public knowledge, the owner would be you, John Marshall, and Cleveland Robinson. That situation with Doc, and with as much discretion as you can use, I think people should hear it come from you instead of everybody else telling everybody else what they think. So if you can just touch on that, and like I said, we're not into character assassination, and we respect all, especially those that are here and those that are gone. So with as much discretion as possible, explain to our audience which I think may have catapulted the differences between you and our founder of our system, Snickers Root, Dr. Moses Powell.
Okay. We were all training at me, myself, Cleveland Robinson, John Marshall, and a friend of mine that I grew up with who was not a martial artist but was interested in the business venture named Lewis Monroe. We had gone, actually me and Robinson had gone to 653 Vanderbilt Avenue for the morning class, and where Doc and Baki had a school over there. And there was a padlock on the door, and we were, sheriff's sign. In other words, we weren't there anymore. And as me and Robinson was walking down the street to our cars, we saw a sign at 649 Vanderbilt, which was a storefront, said for rent. We called the lady up. We rented the place, went in there and renovated it and built it all out and everything. And we started having classes there. So the dojo actually belonged to Robinson, John Marshall, Lewis Monroe, and myself. Doc was there. He had classes there every Sunday. We allowed him to have classes there every Sunday. What started happening is that there started being complaints from the people, some of the students that were coming there. Then there were people that started saying that they didn't want Doc there anymore. One Sunday, I got to the dojo. It was already opened up. A lot of the black folks was there waiting for class to start. And when I walked in, Professor Robinson, who at the time was Shihan, he says to me, Tanwir, we voted and decided that, that the doc has got to go. That he
what year
had
was
some.
this? I'm sorry, Professor Grandmaster Soke. Can you give me what year are we talking?
I think this was like 96, between 94 and 96. I'm not really actually sure, but it was around that time. And I said, I'm not really comfortable with that. And they said, well, you know that the brother has some problems and he really needs to address them. Everybody's starting to feel the pain of what he's going through, to put it diplomatically. And since you're the chief instructor of the school, you need to speak to him. He's a Muslim like yourself. Maybe he can take it from you better than he could take it from other people. You know what? Abu Beta, may Allah have mercy upon him and forgive him his sins. He said something to me. He said something to me when I saw him at the Kuroshi-Do Hall of Fame a couple years ago. He said, Tanwir, I don't blame you for doing what you did growing up. He said, but I do blame you for allowing yourself to be used. See, what was motivating me to go and talk to my teacher, is no benefit to me to ask my teacher to leave my school. Actually, it's a loss for me. This is the source of my knowledge. To ask him to go was very difficult. So I didn't just ask him to go. I asked him to go and seek some help, and that I would go and help him find his help. What Abu Baida said to me, which he was absolutely right, he said, Tanwir, you should have let him come in the school and say it to him in front of everybody so that they could defend themselves and he could talk directly to them. But I wanted to help him kind of keep his dignity, and so I went outside. Like I said, my motivation, what motivated me was to really actually help my teacher. Listen, I knew that my teacher had some problems, and it was a love that I cannot stand by and watch somebody do something to themselves repeatedly over and over again and say that I love them and not say anything or try to do anything about it. I just can't do it. And so that was my motivation for doing that. Unfortunately, when I went out and I spoke to him and he left, I went back in, we had class, and the next week, all of the same guys that were in there denied having anything to do with it and said it was all my idea. And I've had to carry the burden of that on my shoulders for the past almost 20 years, 15, 16 years, whatever. And many of these people who are, without mentioning names, or professors and grandmasters and all of that, right now are actually there, present, and know the truth. Someone also said something to me that I've been hearing some stuff through the grapevine. Well, just out, people question me on it from time to time. And they say that, Tanwir, we heard that you pulled a gun out on the dock. That was one of your questions, wasn't it?
Yeah, my next question. Very good. Thank you, sir.
And I said, well, you know what? We must be talking about a different Moses Powell than the one that I trained with. Because, I mean, let's keep in mind that we were standing in front of a dojo that was a storefront. For those of you not from New York, the storefront's got these big glass windows. It takes up the whole front of the place. So me and him are standing there. We had just shook hands and hugged when he walked up. So we're standing there close enough to touch each other. And if any of y'all really know Dr. Moses Powell, this is a man that taught me how to defend or to take a weapon away from somebody. I can't imagine me pulling a gun out on my teacher and still be sitting here having this conversation with you right now. Number one, not that Moses Powell. Maybe they're talking about some other Moses Powell. Also, inside of the dojo was several black belts. There was nobody to play with. Okay? I can't imagine me being inside of the dojo and seeing somebody pull a gun out on my teacher to this day and not have to shoot me too. These brothers in there, if I had did that, I would have had to shoot everybody in the dojo because they would have rolled on me, period. There's no way that I would be sitting here 15, 20 years later, unscathed, nobody's approached me, and I pulled a gun out on Grandmaster Moses Powell, and he just walked away like nothing happened. Nah, come on. Does that even sound right to anybody that's listening? And then I heard the next thing, well, after that was said and done and didn't make any sense, they said that you flashed it. You flashed the gun.
Yes, sir.
That would have been another suicidal movement. You know, a gun isn't something that you flash. It's something that you pull out and shoot. Now, anybody that knows me know that if I pulled the gun out on somebody, I shot something. But I would never do that with my teacher. That's an outright lie. That's an outright lie. I'm disappointed that's been something that's been circulating around over the years. So what got the risk going? Because I was the person who went out. You know how they say, kill the messenger. I was the one who went out and talked to him. So, I mean, did he ever say to me, Tanwir himself, Tanwir, you're no longer part of Sanukis, I strip you of your rank? Did he ever write me a letter saying anything like that? Not from him myself. I've heard other people say that, you're no longer part of Sanukis, Doc kicked you out the system, stripped you of your rank, reduced you to a yellow belt or green belt or whatever belt it was. But from him, I never heard him say that. I've seen him many times since that. He used to come past the dojo to visit me from time to time, even after that incident. Because in his heart, I believe that he knew that what I did was out of love. It was, other than that, it could be absolutely no benefit for me to ask my teacher to not come back to the school until they go and get some help for themselves. And it wasn't an easy thing for me to do. And I remember the first thing that I said to him when I walked out there, I said, at the time we was calling him Professor. I said, Professor, if I had to come to you and say what I'm about to say to you as your student, I would not have the courage to do it. The only way that I have the courage to say to you what I'm about to say to you is as your Muslim brother. So as your Muslim brother, I want to let you know that the people that are standing right on the other side of this window have decided that they want you to not come back to the school until you get some help. I said to him, I'm affiliated with some people throughout the country, in different parts of the country, where we could send you to get the help that you need. He denied having any problem, and he walked down the street. He left. And that was it. I went back in the dojo. Now, do you brothers ever meet Grandmaster Moses Powell? Hello?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Brothers?
Oh, yes, sir.
You asking me?
Yeah, you brothers ever met him? Could you imagine?
Oh, yeah.
Could you imagine me standing next to him and pulling out a gun on him, and him just like accepting that and walking down the street?
No, personally, from the gun disarm techniques that did on me personally, I don't see myself pulling a straw on Doc.
Well, the reason why I could kind of see your story is probably could be true because I'm from Brooklyn and I know the strength he has in New York, and I know if that was done, I mean you wouldn't even be able to have a dojo in Brooklyn.
That dojo stayed there after that for another 5 years.
Yes.
For another 5 years.
Professor Tanwir.
Yes.
And of course we're not name calling names, but inside the Vanderbilt dojo there were some senior people now that are in Sanukis Room, and there were some senior people there that I think you said later on in private. Some of them agree with you, but they said. In private, they agree with what was done, and even openly supported you. I guess in the beginning when the situation happened, but later on, even though they said that you may have been right or whatever, they decided to go on the other side. Can you speak in a little bit of detail about that? And like I say, I don't want to mention names, but we're not talking about a situation with three people.
Right. I would say that 90% of the people that were there afterwards denied having anything to do with it and disassociated themselves from me. For the past since that day until right now, I've had to walk alone. And so I'm very grateful.
Well, Professor, you don't walk alone on this show. You know what I mean? Because this show is nonpartisan and it's independent. All we have to answer to is the God.
That's right. understand? Mm-hmm. You know, and so that's just been the situation of what it's been for me. Is it always been easy? No. Do I consider myself to be a part of the Sanukas family? Let me ask you a question. I have 3 sons. If I get mad with one of my sons and I tell them, well, they don't live with me now, they don't have their own families and houses, but when they were younger and I said, you know what, our relationship is over, pack your stuff and get out. They have to change their address, but are they not my sons? Are they still not my sons? Do they still carry the same last name? Are they still Sahibs? Yes, they are. They're still my sons. They have to have a new address, but they're still my sons. So am I in the circle of Sanukas right now? No, I'm not. Was I given the honor of having rank in Sanukas and having learned some Sanukas, and it's still a very active part of what I do in the martial arts? Absolutely. Is that something that could ever be taken from me? No. It's like my kindergarten teacher coming back and saying, I want my ABCs back. It can never happen. It's just the only one that can take my knowledge from me in the martial arts is Allah. And so, I mean, I'm not a part of all of the stuff that's going on in Sanukas right now. I'm not a part of the decision-making. I'm not a part of – I was never in it for that. I was always in Sanukas for the knowledge. That was my motivation for being there.
Mm. Professor, 1 second. Going back to in the conversations you had with Doc after this incident, and to the best of your knowledge, Dr. Moses Powell, Professor Moses Powell at that time, and later on Dr. Moses Powell, he has never told you that you were removed from the system of Sanukas or have been kicked out. You were never told that personally by the founder.
No.
And the second part of the question is I want you to address because things are floating around that Doc demoted you, actually stripped your rank and back to a green belt. Some say back to a white belt. And like you said, the knowledge you can't take. But as far as the ranking in Sanukas, and then of course the story with the late Abu Beda, Yahya Muhammad, Rahim Allah, who's my very good friend and dear brother. I want you to just explain to people because just because you were there, those 2 things. First of all, the conversation with Dr. Moses Powell after the event, and him never telling you that your rank was stripped, him directly, and as you know, the system's motto is eye to eye and heart to heart. And then, of course, the second thing, what happened with the coming to the dojo and reclaiming of the certificates or the Sanukas documents and things of that nature.
When Abu Beda came to the dojo? Okay, well, the first part of the question about conversations that I had with Doc after that incident, we never had conversations that were, like, lengthy after that. There was always a level of tension. He would come past the dojo, in all honesty. From time to time, he would need a little bit of help financially, and I would give him a few dollars. He would sit down, we would talk for a few minutes, and then he'd go. He never told me, Tanwir, you're no longer part of Sanukas. He never said to me, Tanwir, I'm stripping you of your rank and making you a white or yellow or green belt or any other rank. He never said that to me. And I will say that statement and follow it up by saying, Wallahi. And for those who don't know what that means, it means, and Allah knows that I'm telling the truth. And any Muslim that says that and is telling a lie will immediately leave Islam. And that's not something that I would even play with. So, that's something that we take very seriously. So from his own mouth to me, I never heard him say that. He never said to me that I wasn't part of Sanukas. He never said to me that I was stripped of any rank. Whether he said it to other persons or not, I don't know. Now, the second part, Abu Beda came to the dojo one day. I was preparing for morning class, and he says to me, Tanwir, I came here. The doc sent me here to get your certificate back. And I told Abu Baida, I said, Abu Baida, did you come to fight me? Is that what your reason here? He said, you my Muslim brother, I didn't come to fight you. I said, go back and tell the doc the same thing that he taught you and me, that you don't ever surrender your rank to anybody. That if they get it, it's because they come and took it. So if he wants it, tell him to come get it himself. The next day or 2 days later, I got a call from Soke Hassan Khalid. And he called me up and he said, Tanwir, he said, Assalamu alaikum, alaikum salam. He said, Tanwir, Abu Baida gave you the wrong message. That wasn't the message that he was supposed to give you. He made a mistake. The message that he was supposed to say to you is that anybody that is not a part of the Sanucus Federation and paying into the Sanucus Federation, the doc wanted them to take the name of Sanucus off of their school. It was at that time that I went outside and I took a single-edged razor blade and I scraped the name Sanucus off of the school and I put Fannul Harb because Fannul Harb was already in existence. It was at that time that I took the Sanucus certificates off the wall and I took them home, and I still have them to this day. And that's
Professor. Professor, I actually believe you, man. I mean, just talking to, and I've been around the block many times. I've been around the block. I know a lot of, I've been around the block a lot of times, and it just sounds truthful. Hey, we got 40 minutes left, and I'm going to go to calls. This line is lit up, and before I go to the calls, let me just say I'm talking to Professor Tanwir Sahib of Fannul Harb, also 7th Dan in Sanucus Rule. Let me go to the first call. This should let you know how this goes. I'm going to read the last four numbers, the last four of your number, and that's how I'm going to call you. And when you come online, just say your name and then and state your question.
Yes. Also, caller, say your name and where you're calling from. Say your name and where you're calling from. Okay.
Okay. 5496. 5496. Okay. This person is just a listener. Thank you for calling in. 5496. All right. The next person is going to be 1941. Let me bring this person in. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
This is Professor Ibrahim, Delaware, Newcastle, Delaware. Professor in Fannul Harb, and Professor in Commando Battle Tactics. And Tanwir, how can you say you stand alone? One of my piece of top liver.
That's not what I'm talking about, Ak. You always been by my side. You know that. I know you right there with me all the way. We down like four flat tires. I know. We down like four flat tires. I know, brother.
Stand alone.
Yeah.
Come on, man. But understand one thing, to the listeners and to the brothers that are the hosts, and Salahuddin, I don't know if you remember me. This is Ibrahim. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Ibrahim, I'm sorry, brother. I know about 4 Ibrahims.
Yeah, that's like walking in a masjid saying, is anybody in here named Muhammad, right?
Salahuddin. This is Big Ibrahim from CBT. CBT, Commando Battle Tactics. Let's go back even further. Let's go back almost 15 to 18 years ago with Suleiman Sharif when I was doing Sirat Sinigayun. Do you remember then?
Yeah. MashaAllah. No, brother, I'm sorry. I just no, I don't. I need to see your face, inshallah.
MashaAllah. But I do have to clear up one thing. The rumors that have been spread about my brother for almost the past 16 years, no one actually ever came to talk to him directly face to face. And mind you, that specifically these rumors have been circulated by one individual. I'm not going to mention him by name, but let's understand something. He speaks with a forked tongue. He speaks with a forked tongue. And he's been doing this rumor thing, and mind you, he was there in the beginning when he was behind that window when my brother went out to see Doc and talked to him that day. And since that time, this rumor has been spread falsely. But no one has ever came during my time in Georgia, through our time in Philadelphia, ever came to my brother and asked him directly what happened. But this guy has spread this rumor like wildfire. But mashallah, the Munafiq gets his due rewards on the day of Yom Kiyama.
Ameen.
Amen. Thank you, brother.
That's all I have to say.
Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Ibrahim.
Assalamu alaikum.
All right. We're going to go to the next caller, 2275. 2275. Heart to heart, Professor Hockman. I know. Heart to heart, Professor.
Oh, yeah? He's enjoying his birthday today.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
He is enjoying his birthday today. This is the other part of the twin.
Oh, that sounds like Grandmaster Yehuda Shem Yehuda.
Yeah, that's
At any rate, my brethren, it's been 7 years. You know what? We can move on because we can't change none of that. All things in His judgment, any kind of way it go. So now, what we want to know is how far you done got along in this intellectual creation that we call Sanuka's Root, and whether or not you're still giving it up like you're supposed to. And,
I'm doing the best that I can. I'm doing the best that I can, sir. You know, I'm following examples of brother like yourself, and I'm doing the best that I can.
Hey, since we got the Grandmaster on the phone, Professor, can you tell me who is this man, Grandmaster Senior Professor Yehuda Shem? Who is this man? Who is he?
Tell you what, go to Sanuka's videos number 2, and you'll see him. That's the guy that's taking most of the beating in the whole video, to tell you the truth. You know, yeah. He's a brother that has been in the martial arts for a very long time. He black belt since the early 70s, maybe even before that. Exceptional martial artist. He is a person that I don't have any problem myself with going and standing in his line and taking classes from him. None of, and I have done it many times. I've gone to his dojo and gotten in the ranks and taken classes from him. Extremely knowledgeable about the martial arts. He knows what he's doing. He knows the system.
So you're saying he could take you out? Like if you run up on him, he could take you out?
Yeah, anybody? Who, me?
No, Yehuda.
I mean, he could take out people.
I already don't get him to come outside.
Say what?
I already don't get invitations outside.
But no, I'm just playing, y'all. But Grandmaster, finish up your questions because we only got 33 minutes. I want to go to the rest of the call, but finish up your questions, sir. My question is to the professor in this regard. When you finally got the direct message from Soke Hassan, did you understand what it meant for you to have to take the name of Sanukas off of your marquee, if that's not a demotion? See, what it boils down to, does ignorance of the chain of command excuse one from the chain of command? That's my question.
Of course not. But again, at the time, to be honest with you, and even still to this day, whether or not I was, let's just say that I was removed from the system, and let's just say that all of my rank was taken. Let's just say that. Although this was never said to me, but let's just say that this is what took place. Let's say this is what took place. And I'm going to tell you what it still means to me. It means absolutely nothing to me because, see, for me, the time that I spent learning this art was not so that I could be glorified or put on any kind of pedestal. It was purely to help me develop as a man and become a better Muslim, to be a better father, to be a better husband, to be a better person in my community, to help the youth, to be a better revolutionary, to be a better all of these things. So the purpose of it was, for me, was for active use. It wasn't so I could go out and show techniques or do this or do that or say, or I've never been a rank junkie. It doesn't matter to me. If I had, what I wanted was the knowledge. And I don't like to say that having a rank is not important to me, because having that rank is an indication, it's a symbol of the time and hard work that was put in. So, yeah, of course, you think that wasn't hurtful to me? Absolutely, it was hurtful to me, and it's been hurtful to me over these years. But yeah, go ahead.
That is my point. In Fighting Concepts number 4, even though it was stated long before then, he said that when a teacher gets mad at the student, something is wrong with that damn teacher. So he had to look at himself from how he would have reacted years ago to other individuals who, look, they just wound up being blood on the wall. Okay, students can call themselves not wanting to interact with or wanting to interact with their master, but he has a choice of not to interact with them. Would you agree with me?
Absolutely.
Okay, so now that he's then gave up the ghost, what are we going to do to proliferate that knowledge, that intangible knowledge that was left to see? Because Sanukis is an art that can only be gotten breast to breast and chest to chest. All right, all that other bullshit don't matter. That's chewed up grass or swamp water. So are we going to do this? Or are we not going to do this? That's all this is about. All right, yes, some of us are in this as a business. True enough. Those that are in this for a business, they have two classes of students. They have the hard-boiled eggs, and they have the raw eggs. The raw eggs are the ones that keep the dojo alive. The hard-boiled eggs are a way to go ahead and keep yourself in shape and in order. And some of those guys don't have the funds to take care of it. So it's compensated by them getting street technique done on them. But let's go on, brother.
Well, all I got right now is a group of hard-boiled eggs. I don't have a big school. I don't have a whole bunch of students. I have a small group of very dedicated brothers that train hard and are really being productive in their own lives. And I'm grateful for that I'm able to pass something on to them and learn from them and grow from them. Because every time I get on the floor with them, I learn something.
On another level, as far as men and women working out in the martial arts, in the Snooker Dojo, there were no. Yes, an individual could contract for private classes. Groups could contract for private instructions where it was all female groups, all male groups. But in your understanding of it, well, guess what? You have to pass on knowledge to your family and your wife. You've got to make sure that she understands what it's going to take to get Joe Blow off her butt. And if they never experience that rage or that fire or that strength, then they're going to be shortchanged. You don't want to shortchange them. You want to give them the real deal so they'll know just what to expect and how to respond to it or how to perceive that which was about to come.
Well, Master, with my wife, I try to throw her through the floor. I try to throw her through the floor. I try to knock her into the other room. But
so my question to you is, when are you going to participate in the Master Series?
Grandmaster, I'm going to give you Grandmaster. I'm going to give you his number, and you guys could chalk it up off the air. But I only got 28 minutes, and I got a bunch of other calls I got to take in.
Make it happen.
All right. Good talking.
All right, Grandmaster.
All right.
All right, let me just move this right along. All right, next caller is 78880. 78880. 7880. All right, this person just. All right, let me go to 2326.
The line that we had right here, they
2326.
Okay.
Oh. 2326. All right. We got another caller. 4840. 4840.
All right. Listen, Shabazz, before you take another phone call, callers, listen. When you call in, you press 1 if you want to speak to the host or you have a question. If you just want to listen to the show, you press 2. All right, just so we can clarify to some of the callers. Okay.
All right, and let me go. We got here 9985.
Assalamu alaikum.
Callers, state your name and where you're calling from.
This is Baba Taji Nanji from Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, Salam alaikum, Guru. You should see the smile on my face.
Yeah, right. Me too.
I had to speak to the legend, Professor Tanwir.
Assalamu alaikum, Mark. It's good to hear your voice. I can see you smiling. I hope you can see me smiling right now.
You smiling big time. I'm tell you like you have to wait. Son, that's crazy. How you gonna say you walking alone?
Oh yeah, I know that. That ain't what I meant. I know you right there beside me. I know that all the time. Sometimes in front. Pulling me along.
Brother right here, you know I'm down for the cause all the time. Got your back and your front and side.
I'm still trying to catch up with you with the push-ups, man. Anybody listening, don't challenge that brother to a push-up contest. He'll be at 200 and still going.
Yeah, but this has been a very, very enriching conversation. I really appreciate all the comments that Grandmaster Yehuda had to say. And, Tanwir, I hope that you're taking it in the spirit that it's given. And just know that, for what it's worth, when our spirits leave the bodies, it's a time for new beginnings, And what we need to do, we need to focus on that. And those who have the hearts big enough to let the past stay in the past and move forward, well, God bless them, And those who aren't, you have to continue to love them from afar and continue to serve your purpose because, everybody's here for a purpose. And I knew it was your purpose because otherwise it wouldn't have been a part of your destiny. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
And understand that the love and the tutelage and the knowledge that Doc gave you is something that you said people cannot take away. They can create any other construct they want to, real or imagined. But at the end of the day, what you have was given to you by the Doc, and nobody can take that away from you but Allah.
That's right.
So just cherish and relish in that, man, and know that, where Doc is right now, he's not even, that kind of person, He's in love and light. In that fourth, fifth dimension, you don't even operate with all those crappy notions, jealousy, hate, and misunderstandings, and resentment, and all that stuff doesn't exist, man. It's just pure love,
Yes.
So I'm Doc ain't sending you love from the other side, and just know that you just got to move forward, man. Don't worry about these other people because life is too short. We got work to do. We got things to get accomplished, and we cannot let people just hold us back. We have to move on.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, look, man, there's people out here that got your back.
I love you back, man. I love you back, brother. Believe me. And thank you so much.
Oh, thanks for calling, Guru.
Sorry.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Professor.
Yes.
How you feeling, man? You feel like you had it's like this turned into a family reunion or something.
Yeah, right.
Hey,
I feel good.
Man, the thing is, in reality, it's one of my favorite books in the Quran is Al-Baqarah, and there's a surah, forget which ayat it is, but he says, and you say you believe, but when you get around your devils, you mock me. And he's talking about the hypocrite. And to me, it's just so many hypocrites, man. And it's like, I always try, anybody who knows, I always try to be upfront. Like I am with you on this radio show, it's how I'm with you on the street, it's how I'm with you all the way around the block. And I just feel like there's so much energy being put in hypocrisy and hating and jealousy and slandering and backbiting, that if we were to take that energy and put it into, like the Grandmaster said, Grandmaster Shim said, the Master says unity, moving forward, trying to come together, think how much further along we would be. Because there's no benefit to all this stuff. The brother Ibrahim just called in and he said all this time, 16 years, it's been going through. And was he telling the truth? Is this the first time you've ever been approached about this in your life? This the first time?
This is the first time that I've been on a public. I've actually had an opportunity to speak on my own behalf regarding it. No one has ever came to me that was there from the Sanuces family and said anything to me about this, because the people who were there know the truth. They know the truth. So these are things that have been said about me behind my back, and I mean, that's just where that's at. You mentioned Surah Baqarah, which is the second surah, or for those who are not familiar with it, means chapter of the Quran. This is the way that I see the Quran. The first chapter of the Quran is called the Al-Fatiha, or the opening.
The opening.
There's 113 surahs of the Quran. Is it 113 or 114? 114.
114,
right?
I believe.
114 surahs of the Quran. The first one is the one that we repeat in every salat, in every prayer. And in this first surah of the Quran, the Al-Fatiha, the opening, we're making a request to Allah to guide us, protect us, and show us the way. And the other 113 surahs of the Quran is his response. And he begins by talking about who the believer is. And then he starts to talk about who the disbeliever is, and then he starts to talk about the hypocrite. And when you mention that, it just made me think about that. Anybody who hasn't read the Quran that may be listening, I can absolutely tell you with firm conviction that there is no one or thing that deserves to be worshipped except Allah, although people worship many other things. And the seal of all of the prophets is Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, and I bear witness to this fact. And if you are in the earshot of my voice and are able to repeat after me, you should say the same thing with conviction, knowing in your heart, believing in your mind, and uttering with your tongue that I bear witness that no one or thing is God or deserves to be worshipped except Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. And in saying that, I fulfilled my duty. I was always taught that when there is a gathering and the name of Allah is not mentioned, then all of the people in that gathering are cursed. And a great sheikh, I heard him say that if you have a conversation with someone that lasts for more than 5 minutes, tell them something about Islam. And I try to do that. And that's it. That's all I want to say.
Professor, I'm gonna let you have the last few minutes, but before I wrap this up, I would just like the audience to know this show is probably gonna get between now and next Monday. This show is probably gonna have about 200, 250 listens. 250 people around the country who listen to this show, and I would like that this show, just put an end to this nonsense, put an end to this madness. And like the brothers that called in, like the guru called in, the past is the past. I mean, because to be honest, everybody at some point had an issue with Doc. If we really be honest, and if we really wanted to do the research on every single person, we probably could find their history, do a show about them, and show they all had a history with them. And if that was the case, that means that we would indict the entire system. So my request to you, brother, would be if you could just do a prayer, and we could just have we treat this prayer. That's it. We cut this up, you know, and then that's it. We just ended in peace. Because to me, a real Muslim should be striving for peace. And if you're not striving for peace, Islam. The root is salam. The root of Islam is peace.
Mm.
The root is peace. So if the root of Islam is peace, and if you're not striving for peace, what are you? You know what I mean? You're just mocking.
Yeah.
You're just saying a beautiful Arabic chant, and you're going through the motions, and you're wearing the nice clothing, but inside you're a devil. So all I would say is, on the show, you know, Professor, if you could just do a prayer, and we'll treat this prayer as just, you know, and may Allah bless Doctor, because I'm sure if he was living, if he heard this show, he would call in right now and say, son, this is water under the bridge.
Yes.
You know, so I would invite you, Professor. After you say to just do a prayer, and I would just treat this prayer to end the show out.
All right. And before we do that, and Professor, and listen, also tell us if anybody has any questions that they don't feel comfortable calling in our show in. Let's tell the people how to reach you. If you have a website in your dojo, where they're located, in case there are people that want to train with you, or just want to come by and say hello. So give me your contact information.
I'm in Atlanta. I have on Facebook a page, Fannul Harb page, FANNUL HARB, and you know, you get all the contact information off of there. I'm teaching out in Riverdale, Georgia. I live in Atlanta, on Highway 138 and Highway 85. I'm there 3 days a week. And out in Decatur with one of my students, Shion Prince Fagan in Decatur, and that's on Saturdays at 1 p.m. So my number is 404-543-7407. Again, 404-543-7407. I also wanted to mention that that there's some really strong students of mine that are strong in spirit, strong in their mind, strong in their heart, and strong in their martial arts ability. I have some new black belts and from Fannul Harb that just recently made black belt, and some that came to me as black belts but have grown and have been promoted. And one of those people is Shion Prince Fagan, and we have Sensei Todd Morgan, who just got promoted to second, and we have Sensei Hanif Al-Ansari, who just made first-degree black belt, Shodan, and we have Sensei Rajan Muhammad, who also just made first-degree black belt, and these brothers have been a powerful force in my life to help me keep going. I have a number of brown belts down here. I have people that have situations where they can come, and some have situations where they can't come. And I just like to remind myself and anybody else who teaches the martial arts is that to always try to continue to be an example and a light for the people to follow. Know that you may have just been a vehicle for your student to enter into the martial arts, but you may not be the vehicle that the Most High uses to take them through the martial arts. They may have to learn the rest of it from somebody else. And don't take that personal. You know, everything has a beginning and everything has an ending except for Allah. The prayer that I would like to make for all of us is that I beg Allah humbly to increase us in guidance and piety and righteousness, knowledge and wisdom that is useful, not useless knowledge and wisdom. That He gives us the strength to endure the hardships and get through the good times without becoming elated and destroying ourselves. That He brings his creation to the place and allows it to go through the things that it has to go through until the last day. And I pray that the believers that are listening, that inshallah, if it be the will of God, there would be neighbors in paradise. And I advise you and myself to not beat up on yourself when you make mistakes. Just like any person who is a white belt, as you're going up through the ranks, or each rank you're in is going to come with a new set of information. And with that new set of information, you're going to get it wrong more times than you get it right. But eventually, the tide is going to turn and you'll start getting it right more than you get it wrong. And with prayer, perseverance, steadfastness, hopefully we can move forward and grow. And I want to thank you, brothers, for allowing me an opportunity to put out there something that I've been wanting to do for a long time. I just never had an audience to do it.
That's it.
Listen, it was definitely an opportunity to interview you, Professor, and inshallah, and I hope to meet you soon. And I'm just going to just hand over to my Shihan to close out the show.
All right, no problem. Once again, Professor Tanwir, thanks for sending in there. We especially for the heart-to-heart segment, which is where we put the issues that the people want to hear. You know, as far as some of the things, some of the innuendos and things that fly around. And so the heart-to-heart segment, thanks for sending in there and answering the questions. And we're giving us one of our best, if not the best, interview so far. I really enjoyed talking to you, brother. You're a very good and sincere man from all the indications that I get from you. All right. Once again, by the way, do you want to mention any other? Do you want to mention any of the Fannul instructors out there? I think you have schools in Miami. I think what was that, Delaware, or where the other?
Yeah. Professor Ibrahim is in Delaware. One of my black belts, Axe, just opened a school in Miami. Eric Howard is in New York. And Kiyoshi Ron Brabrams is also in New York. Soke Abdul Alim is in Philadelphia, and Soke Yusuf Bey is in Chicago.
All right, not a problem. But once again, go ahead, Professor. Go ahead. I just want to say
that was me. I had just said
interview. Oh, okay, brother. Well, good, no problem. With that being said, we want to say thank you to Professor Tanwir of Fannul Harb. He's a Soke. He's one of the founders of the system, and he's located here in Atlanta, Georgia. All right, this was brought to you today by Sinjokai.com or SinjoMartialArts.com. SinjoMartialArts.com. Your premier Snooker's Real Dojo, located here in Atlanta, Georgia. Professor, I think that Shabazz, you want him to take us out with Surah Fatiha?
Yeah, sure. And
you want to take us out? Because I think you said something you want to take us out with a prayer. So let's just keep it a simple one. Surah Fatiha, inshallah. You can go ahead and take us out with that, Professor Tanwir.
Oh, Professor.
Sure.
Yeah, Professor, take us out with Surah Fatiha, and I'm going to get eye to eye, heart to heart, each one teach one. All right, and take us out.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. Stay blessed, brothers. Inshallah. Heart to heart.